You know, so far, over the course of now almost 24 hours, we've been able to talk about policy issues. We've been able to talk about the federal-provincial relationship. We've been able to hear from the mayor about the significance of the city. And as so many of you know, the significance of partners within the city of Saskatoon and well beyond. This afternoon, we're going to highlight and maybe put a spotlight on some other areas that relate to immigration that increasingly, but perhaps subtly, are helping to redefine and reinvigorate our province in ways that we hadn't anticipated 10 years ago when we talked about putting out a new strategy, which we did in 2009. So we thought we'd spend a little bit of time this afternoon, and Dr. Sarkar is he's gonna come in, and I know there are some others that are gonna join us. But we're gonna talk about immigration as a source of innovation. That is, as newcomers are arriving and communities are being reinvigorated, we have some new needs. We've talked about some of those. Well, we've got some expertise here, and Grant Cook is gonna provide us with an overview of a fascinating and important program that he was able to envision and we together were able to move forward on. Then we've got Kaminashis Deb, who's going to talk to us about the significance of entrepreneurship. And he's going to tell you a story about what his journey has been like and how he's been really received so well in a number of communities where he has businesses. And then Sandra Ribeiro is going to talk to us about what it's like to arrive here and be an international student and then opt to stay in Saskatchewan and the significance of that. And I think the federal government just put out a new report today where it's up over $14 billion that international students contribute to Canada and what that looks like going forward. But why don't we get started? And Grant, we are absolutely delighted to have you here. Grant Cook is the founder and CEO of Westcap. He is the chairman of SaskTel. He is the chair of the Saskatchewan Health Authority, Health Board, and probably one of the most dynamic business leaders in our province today. And his role regarding public policy has been cemented in many initiatives. He chairs the Premier's Council on Asia-Pacific Relations. And so, Grant, to you, I want to say thank you on behalf of the organizers, but everyone here. He's also helped to sponsor the event, and he's going to tell us about a housing initiative that has helped to and continues to help change Saskatchewan and answer some of that affordability challenge.
Great.
Grant.
Thanks. Thank you. Rob, thank you very much. So Rob asked last night if I could come out for a few minutes, and now he's asked me for quite some time if I could come out and speak to this event. I heard it's going as a great success. My apologies for not being able to make it last night, so I heard that went good as well. For all my working life, I've been involved in numerous things, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background so I can tell you how immigration fits into that. But I'm really glad that you guys are able to pull this together and talk about immigration and how immigration, if you think about it in an innovative fashion, can be a really true economic and social facilitator, enabler of what's going on in the province. And the example that Rob talked about, that we worked together when he was the Minister of Immigration in the province, we collaborated between government and private sector, is going to be a prime part of the 10 minutes that I'm going to talk about. Because if we talk about innovation, this really was a vehicle that brought everybody together. Government, private sector, it impacted new refugees, it impacted new immigrants, and it brought capital to the table. So it touched on everything we know about. A bit about my background. I was born and raised in a small community in Outlook, Saskatchewan. And so I'm third generation immigration. I'm third generation immigrant. There's many different streams by which you can get here as an immigrant. Refugee, entrepreneurial status, business status. My family chose none of those, we chose not to burden the federal and provincial government in terms of using their resources to get here. They came illegally. And so we stowed away. My parents stowed away on a boat, landed on the shores of BC, made their way across, and landed in Outlook, Saskatchewan. We used no taxpayers' dollars to do any of this. And we stayed there, and we stayed in hiding until our cooking allowed us to come out, and we weren't prosecuted. So we grew up in a Chinese restaurant, cooking food, but my parents were illegal the whole time. Until that time came that they could come out and not be persecuted, and you could become a legal standing citizen of Canada. So I did come across as an immigrant. I was born and raised here, but my parents did. So I can appreciate the struggles of what they did to get here, and certainly I appreciate that every day. After that, I went to University of Saskatchewan, so right on this campus. I was a business major. I graduated a long time ago, but I had a great time here. So what does my company do? In the last 3 decades, basically what we do is we create unique investment pools of capital. And what we do with those unique capital pools is we fill gaps in the economy. We fill gaps, as you guys would all know. People would go, oh, you fill gaps in the economy to make money for people. Yes, we do. But we also designed other funds that are not just about money. We create funds that fill economic gaps, that create jobs. We create funds that fill social gaps, like affordable housing that was needed in the province. We created a fund so that we could help First Nations people in the province begin to create more wealth. So you can create funds not just for money. You can create funds for lots of different economic and social reasons that are important to all of us. Right now, everybody's talking about social infrastructure funds, social funds. Why? Because governments today can't keep funding all the social programs that we have because of all the social needs that we have. So now, the big discussion talk today is about social funds. All right? We're one of the unique investment fund managers that believe that immigration needs to be a tool that should be part of everything that we talk about. And so we have created various funds working with immigrants as well. That takes us to the program that Rob was talking about earlier in the introduction. There's not so many years ago, let's call it about 6, where this province was growing in a dynamic way. We were quite prosperous before commodity prices slowed, which is okay. That happens. You just got to be prepared for it. And the premier of the day, and cabinet, if Rob was part of it, said, we need to find a way to keep our prosperity going, keep the economies going. How do we do that? Well, we need more workers. And they fought. They went to Ottawa. They got more nominees than we ever had before. And it continued to be one of their top priorities. We need more workers. That wasn't the ultimate end to that discussion. How do we attract more workers? We need a place for them to live. We need affordable housing, because as the economy's moving, affordable housing prices are going up, and people can't afford to live. And social living and recognizing people's lifestyles is an important part of the economy. That was the problem of the day. So how do we solve it? There's another program in Ottawa, and it was called an immigration program. And it was being criticized because wealthy immigrants, business immigrants, through a different stream, could place money in Ottawa, and they could find their way into Canada. That's a different stream. But the problem was that money was not creating any economic value. So they had a problem. This program that they had created, where you could put $800,000 into a fund, it was just sitting there. And eventually, they could get immigration status. Their problem was it wasn't creating any economic activity. It was sat in this fund. Saskatchewan had a problem. We needed more workers. We needed to attract more workers. To do that, we needed to create affordable housing. By using immigration, those two problems we had, and using immigration as a tool, we created a pilot project where we would say, to the federal government and the immigration department, you have this pool of billions of dollars sitting there. We'd like to use it. And we'll use it to create the largest economic and social infrastructure fund this province has ever seen. It became a $200 million social infrastructure fund. The federal government would say, yes, we agree with you. The provincial government would say, we will receive that money and we will guarantee you we'll give it back. We would then go to every municipality in the province and say to Humboldt and Outlook and Saskatoon and Regina, wherever you're from, and say, do you need affordable housing to attract workers to your municipal province or community? We wouldn't just go in there. We would say, would you like to, do you have a problem? This was a partnership between the federal government, provincial government, municipal governments throughout the province. And if they said yes, we would then partner with a private sector builder. And we would go into their backyard and build affordable housing. But that wasn't enough. What if we build all these homes for new immigrants, for new people wanting a home, but they couldn't afford the down payment deposit? Because it's one thing to build a house, but now how do you put people in it? Well, you had to find another partner who would provide money to provide the down payment assistance. Well, our credit union system in the province believes in working with communities and their members and people. They have a very community-minded culture, and they said, we'll put up $10 million. Working collaboratively with other credit unions, and if you come in and you need to buy one of those new affordable housing units, we'll put the money down, the 5% down, so you can get into it. 5 years later, 6 years later, today, here's the result. The result is we have now built over 2,600 affordable housing units throughout the province of Saskatchewan, worked with 39 different community organizations, and every time we went into the community, they put something up. They put up lots, they deferred taxes. They came to the table aligned, as does the federal and provincial government, as did the immigrants that wanted into the country. Everybody contributed. Today, the results would suggest that we've created $670 million of economic activity, jobs. In fact, the statistics would say, and it was verified by Shrita, that we created equivalent of 2,200 full-time jobs. So that's all the business economic cycle. It filled the gap with everybody pitching in, using immigration as a tool. So let's look at the social side. Of the 2,600 houses, affordable housing we've built around the province, 91% of those were acquired by people who've never owned a home before, for the first time. So can you imagine the sense of pride, social impact of owning your own home? Of the 91%, 84% of those were renting. So there's a true pride of ownership and building a family culture, which we know is important to the social, economic factors that we have to take care of in government. And, anecdotally, the numbers would suggest over 40% of those homes purchased was by new immigrants coming to the province that came here to look for a job. So when we talk about innovation and immigration, this is just one tool that was sitting in Ottawa, and a problem they had in one stream that helped solve a problem in Saskatchewan that resulted in countless thousands of new jobs, thousands of new homes, and new residents coming to the province and building a life in Saskatchewan. So the fact that you're having this forum, continue to talk about innovation, I think why I was invited is, I don't know why I was invited, but I think I was invited, but it was an opportunity to say that sometimes the obvious is just sitting there and you forgot to ask the question of why not use it. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It takes champions to do that. And Rob was the minister of the time. And so The fact of us matter is that it's no coincidence the fact that both of us are under 5'8". Taking no for an answer is not going to happen. We have a syndrome called short person syndrome, and you know what? We just thought it was a good idea. And so I want to thank Rob, who said very kind accolades today that he was just as instrumental in that program, and keep up having the discussions because it can happen. Thanks.
Grant, thank you. I feel better already. I usually come in about 5'7", so I feel a little taller today. The key was, and Grant highlighted this, there was an instrument. The previous government, without being partisan, the previous government did not sign on to that instrument. Money was flowing right by Saskatchewan. All we did was, and we reached this conclusion independently, but at the same time, we've got to sign on this instrument, and then we can begin to think about ways to solve pressing social issues with dollars that are readily available. From there, the alignment was we didn't have the capacity to actually implement that within government. Remember what I said today about the gateways? What I said to everyone was, they're not government offices. This was another instance. It wasn't going to be the role of the state to actually implement this. We're not nimble enough. And so a partner like Grant was able to envision what was needed and actually operationalize it. Grant, we're conscious of your time. We're delighted for as much time as you can give us in staying here, and at the same time, we understand you probably have some other commitments. So thank you for being here. Yeah, actually, if we could do that. Grant's he does have to go, but he's willing to take a few questions, a couple questions, if and as we'd like to engage him. You can ask him kind of where he picks out his tie. There we are.
Another question, just a clarification, if I missed that piece. So what is that program called? Is it a residential innovation or some other program?
The program's called Head Start on a Home.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a website. We actually carry the products on there. It's and the credit unions have their support program on the website as well. Yeah.
Grant, could you just talk about some of the challenges here? We were making progress, and then something happened in Ottawa. Again, the interrelationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is anybody from CIC here?
I think you're okay, but
Okay.
make sure they get a copy.
Well, I would say that the program was well underway. It was doing its objective. Halfway through the program, I'd say year 3, the federal government decided to discontinue that particular vehicle in Ottawa. And so the good news is for us is that we had already was able to execute and implement a key part of the program, and we were able to secure a good portion of the committed $200 million that the program was intended to do. The bad news is that the big picture of this is that once you solve the affordable housing program, once you solved there was enough affordable housing in Saskatchewan, you had to move. You could use that money, then move to something else. You could solve any other social program that needed dollars, that had no cost of capital, that could help facilitate it. So I would describe this money as immigration capital could help solve social problems. Halfway through the program, the federal government discontinued the program. And so to this day, they have not backfilled and replaced that program with any other meaningful program to the same degree, or any meaningful program at all. I could say that Rob and I have spent numerous times going to various offices talking about the possibilities if you rebuild that program so that provinces can tap in like we did, not just for Saskatchewan, could tap in like we did and use it for their own regional priorities. Because every province has their own regional priorities of how they would use that money. BC has a tremendous problem relative to affordable housing. They should copy our model. This is not us just being selfish for Saskatchewan. This is us saying, look, here's what we did. You should copy the model. The problem is the program is gone, and it's not been replaced with anything else. So right now, those billions of dollars that they canceled, when they canceled the program, there was $56 billion waiting to come in by immigrants around the world that wanted to come into Canada. That's $56 billion that they said, sorry, we're killing the program, that other provinces today could tap into for social needs. And it's unfortunate, but we won't give up trying. Yeah. Well, why did they cancel it? I think it's probably political ideology is my best answer. Rob, is that the right answer? I don't know.
Was that the Harper government that you
It was the last government.
It's not the current government.
The last.
It was canceled
Say name.
2014. We've got a question in the back.
Thank you, Grant. And I feel like this program is an essential program. And thank you for being instrumental, you and Rob. I was wondering if you are working hard to implement or to bring it back, this program, in effect. And I was also wondering if you are fundraising or issuing debentures from local immigrants or local people here in Saskatchewan. Do you issue any debentures or any for that purpose, for that program?
To your first question, we're working hard to try to get the program brought back. And so we're working hard with Rob, actually, if it's okay. And we will go anywhere, anytime, anyhow, boats, trains, or automobiles, to talk about the statistics of the economic and social impact. So yes, we are. We are not issuing any debentures on that program particularly, so we don't have that type of vehicle. I could tell you, though, that since that program is canceled, our company, there's another program that it's different, but we're the only company in Saskatchewan that is approved to sponsor new innovative entrepreneurial teams from around the world into Saskatchewan. So the government has given us a license, provided that our company invests alongside them. We can sponsor the whole immigration entrepreneurial team if they're going to come to Saskatchewan to develop a new product or a new innovation. And so we are the only company that's been approved to sponsor innovation teams. And so it's not just about money, it's about people as well that we're interested in. Yep.
She's got a question. One last one, Grant.
Yes, please.
Grant, one of the things that we have heard today and earlier, that number of the, say, building tradespeople who are immigrants, some of them are already employed, but they don't have that wide an opportunity. But there are others who have good experience in the building trades, but have not been able to go through the apprenticeship program or so forth, and therefore are doing things below their skill level. Is it possible, so I got two-phase question. Is it possible to kind of bring some of those skills together and in the process of building social infrastructure, they also essentially develop Canadian experience? So that's kind of one. The second is, as you said, something else, that a lot of settlement agencies talk about that we provide market employability training. But today's training is needed in many other innovative areas. And there is no training institution which actually provides that. Is it possible to kind of bring a project which focuses on training for not just today's marketplace, but for marketplace of 10 years in the future to get support from them.
Are you talking about with inside the Head Start program?
Or a variation of it.
Well, the Head Start, we couldn't under the Head Start program only because the government killed the program, and we need to rejuvenate to bring more capital. But if you were to create a second redesign of a pilot project like that, I think you could certainly build it into the program. Now we'll have to get it restarted again, and Rob, you would know more about what's happening on apprentice training programs maybe than I would, but so I won't speak on that part. But
Yeah, and we can revisit this quite simply. Saskatchewan was home to a pilot on credential and qualification recognition, was run through Sask Poly, and it highlighted initiatives that aligned with the Philippines, Ukraine, and Vietnam. It was a Canadian pilot. And what it did was attempt to quantify and qualify previous experience through a bit of a matrix and put it into kind of contemporary Canadian terms for apprenticeship training and credential recognition. It was a pilot, and as far as I know, again, it hasn't been restarted, but there is certainly room, and we in Saskatchewan played that Canadian lead role, for initiatives to be hardwired into any number of future initiatives. We can talk about what we've done and where we've been so far. But I do want to applaud Grant, because he literally will jump on any plane, get on any car, and go and have these meetings. And we've met with numerous ministers to talk about the value of this Saskatchewan endeavor. And he just takes his own time, uses his own money, and says, let me tell the Saskatchewan story. It's about a really, really socially driven, very community conscious approach to investment. And it helps to meet one of those key needs in a community, affordable houses. Grant, thanks for your time.
all right.
Thank you, sir. Great. As we say goodbye, and a special thanks to Grant and to Brenda, who accompanied him, we're going to turn our attention to Kaminash's Deb.
Oh.
And I've changed the batting order a little bit, Sandra, and that is, Kaminash has arrived with $20 in his pocket. Today he's an entrepreneur. He's creating jobs. In fact, he just drove to Winnipeg. He picked a guy up who wasn't happy living in Winnipeg and cheering for the Rough Rider, or cheering for the Blue Bombers, brought him over to cheer for the Rough Riders. And he's working, that guy he picked up in Winnipeg, he's now working at one of Deb's businesses in Tisdale. That's the kind of guy he is. So I thought it would be valuable to hear about his story, because when we talk about entrepreneurship, Grant has run a very, very large-scale, sophisticated, entrepreneurial-oriented initiative. But at this time in Saskatchewan, when small and medium-sized businesses are turning over, the last stat I saw is that 70% of small and medium-sized businesses in Saskatchewan are going to go through succession planning over the course of the next decade. We're actually seeing the lifeblood of communities being reinvigorated through immigration and immigration entrepreneurship. So Deb, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you do? He's also the president of the Bangladeshi Community Association.
Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon, Boju, Ola. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to CIC to invite me and giving me the opportunity to share my own story to all of you. We are living in the Treaty 6 territory, the traditional homeland of the Métis. On behalf of Bangladeshi Community Association of Saskatchewan, I would like to provide my heartfelt thanks to Mr. Rob Norris, Mr. Alan Anderson, Mr. Dan Sutherland, Dr. Oshi Shorker, Mr. Mary Fulton, and Miss Marleys. She's working hard here for arranging such a great conference. So before I start my own story, I'd like to let you know that over 5,000 Bangladeshi people are living over the province. And they are doing lots of them are doing very well in our community. They're contributing Saskatchewan's development. And here is a live example, Dr. Oshi Shorker. So City of Saskatoon and Government of Saskatchewan, they are very supportive for our new immigrant. That's why these numbers are increasing day by day. So, thanks again, Government of Saskatchewan and City of Saskatoon for giving us this opportunity to, call our home here. So, and also, our Bangladesh government chose Mr. Rob Norris in our honorary council of our province, and we are so proud to be him here to our, part of our community. It's really, really, give us joy. So today, I'm nervous always, when in front of the people because I never talk, but I'm trying to be, as normal as possible. Now I'm going to tell my story how I started journey in Canada. I came 2006 in one of the Canada's biggest city in Montreal, and I started my career as a dishwasher. Because I applied for job as a cook, but I got a reply, hey, we don't hire any cook. If you want to get in our restaurant, you start from that dishwashing. Then if you see your ability to, to become a cook, then, you can. And I said, okay, I'm happy. I want to start from my bottom. So I started as a dishwasher. And then first day I'm working Saturday, almost there was 400 people in the restaurant, one of the biggest restaurants in Montreal. The chef made comment, he's not going to come tomorrow. He's gonna quit because that was that huge amount. But fortunately, in 2 weeks, I become cook. And in 8 months, I got their 6th promotion. I was starting $950 per hour. Then before I quit, my salary was $60,000 as, to running in, So in 2007, I came to Canada in 2006. I worked there almost 8 or 9 months. I was trying to improving myself, how I can improve. Then I started school. I went to the French school. I learned French, but then I went to the English school. So because I came to Canada, I need to adapt myself Canadian culture first. Then I need to be in what other people are doing. I need to speak. I need to learn. So that's why same time when I was working 65 hours per week, I used to go my school too to learn. Maintenant, je parle français. Mais j'ai commencé à oublier. Parce que long time je ne pas parler. Okay. So in 2007, government of Saskatchewan took my attention. Their immigration policies. Then I said, okay, let me dig out something on there. What is their offering? Then before the immigration, I was looking the future of Saskatchewan province. Because when I came to Canada, I see Montreal is a big city, but there are lots of competition. And I was looking something then, where I can, show my talent, because that's why I start from the dishwasher. Then, I knew that I'll go up. So I was looking some city then where I can be, more comfortable. And then found out about the Saskatchewan. They are, about their incredible immigration policy. But before immigration, I was looking, okay, what Saskatchewan has the future? Is there any other things they are offering? Or if I go there, because, in that time, I was already getting the nursing school. Because I was, try hard, and then, I worked, and I got appointed nursing school. I said, okay, if I give up this thing, what are you going to earn in Saskatchewan if I, move the province? Then I said, there is a lots of opportunity was waiting. That time I didn't know there was any Bangladeshi people who are living that time. Then what I started to motivate people, whoever I know, my relatives, my friend. Hey, do you know about Saskatchewan? Those guys are offering this stuff. Because I didn't want to be alone in here. I wanted some of my friend to be with me. Then I started, then I finally convinced my brother-in-law. I said, you go there. I'll find somebody to help you over there. And then he's gonna pick you. And because I couldn't move there, that time I had my semester going on. And I couldn't leave in the middle of my semester. So I said, you go first, I'm coming, following you. Then I talked few, especially in Hindu communities, who I know, because I was new that time, newcomer. At least 15 families, they came in Saskatoon because of me. Here, I was working behalf of government of Saskatchewan that time. I was selling Saskatoon. I said, go there, please, So, so before I came here, I had almost 15 families, my relatives, my friend here in Saskatoon. Finalists came on 2008 in end of July. I said, okay, because my semester was done and I finished my friends level 5th, and then I said, now this time to move on. So I talked to my brother-in-law. He said, hey, before you come, make sure you bring your own vehicle, because your transit system is not so great and its vehicle is very expensive here. So, in Montreal, then I had a very old car. I started journey with that one. I came about 150 kilometers from Montreal. My car got broke down. And thanks to God, but where it broke down, there was an exit to a city called Carnival in Ontario. So my transmission got broke down. It's a major broke down. So I went there and I find a handyman to fix my car. And then I asked him, can I travel this car with Saskatoon? Then he got what? I said, yeah, I want to go to Saskatoon. He said, with this car? I don't think so. Then I said, what should I do? Then that night, I posted my car in Kijiji for sale. I was able to sell it next day. I sold my car, and I bought another car from Carnival, and I ran out all of my money. I had only $454 on my pocket after buying and selling my cars and everything. Then I started. Once I ended up in Saskatoon, in McArthur Drive, I had a $20 left in my pockets. But thanks to God, my brother-in-law was there, my sister already was there, then I had a place to live, to sleep. Then the same night I started applying for jobs. I applied 4 or 5 places. I got a call next day for 3 places for interview. So, okay, I gave them a time slot, 1 hour. Okay, be there, one. First interview was great. They said, okay, we hired you. It was boardwalk. When you can start? I said, God, because I knew then I needed 2 full-time jobs. So then, okay, I kept one. Then I went for interview, Montana Cookhouse. They actually offering for cook. Then I went for interview. They said, oh, you deserve more than cook. We need a kitchen manager. So I need a permission from our GM. So we can let you know tomorrow our decision. I said, okay. Then the third one, here is come the twist. So the Osler. So I thought Osler should be part of in Saskatoon. So I said, okay. I started, this owner of Osler restaurant, he gave me a direction how to go there. So I was driving. I came to before 71st Street, I stopped. I said, oh, I'm going somewhere wrong. Then I called this guy, hey, he gave me the address. I thought I came the wrong, I am not finding anything here. Is, Osler. And he said, where are you right now? I said, I am in sitting Highway 11 and this one Squing Road, corner of that. Oh, he said, you are in right road. So come further. Then I realized this is Osler is not in Saskatoon, is in another town. So I went there and I found that guy is very interesting. And then he said, once I seen your resume, I determined I need you. Then I said, okay, then I got confused. They're Montana Cookhouse, they're offering me as a kitchen manager, here is a cook. And I like this guy, and always I was looking for the smaller community. I said, okay, I took 2 jobs. One was Boardwalk, and one was Osler Restaurants. So he offered me great, incentives, everything. So here we, start my after in almost not even a year, and I was always looking for upgrade myself and also where I can get like better opportunity. Then I found a job what I wanted. So it's called Andrews as a multinational company. Then and I was working there, even start from the as a labor. Then I got very good salary they have. I used to make close to 100,000 with my overtime and everything. So because of my other job, they offered me every day overtime 2 hours. So I make good money. So then one day I decided to I might quit the Osler restaurants because I'm making good money here. And then I used to start 7 in the morning and finished by midnight every day to travel also, there and so once I talked with this guy, he got very sad. He said, you know what, I was trying to taking my retirement. Now you're talking about the quitting that job. I said, Bruno, yes, this is the reality. He said, I said, are you offering me to take over a restaurant? He said, yes, I am. I said, you're kidding. Because he liked that restaurant like his baby, like as his child, And I never thought then he gonna give and he would like to sell his place. Then he said, yes, I'm serious. You can take my lease, or take my restaurant as a lease. I said, no, I won't take it as a lease, but if you give me mortgage, I'll take it. And I'll pay you in 10 years in $500,000 restaurant. Then I was still confused. Then you know who I went to? Dr. Shorker house. I said, okay, now here is a big, I have a very good job, which I make almost 100,000 yearly. And now I have an opportunity to take over the business. What you suggest? Because he was my mentor. Every time when I came in our communities, he helps so many people, you can imagine. So now he told Kamanashish, you might have opportunity to get this job back again. But business opportunity is very rare. So, and then I understood like what was his meaning. I said, okay, I got your point. So, I went to my job. I say, I'm quitting because I'm taking over the business. So also before taking over the business, I told you like whichever in culture I am, I always try to adapt that culture. The Osler is a Mennonite community, and they are very, very religious, and they, they also like when they thought, they heard that story I'm taking over, they're a little bit nervous. What I'm going to do, okay? I'm not a Mennonite, and what I'm going to do. They always was fear. Before that, I started to going their churches to feel them comfortable. They look, I'm part of you. So before I took over 1 week, so I went their churches. I meet these peoples, and they said, okay, this guy looks okay. Then one older guy, he made a comment that, oh, there was Jesus Christ picture in the restaurant. He said, I hope he's not going to take down this picture. I heard all of this, because I used to work as a cook, and I know from the kitchen, like, they're all feared, they're curious what I'm going to do and this. And then when I took over, May 1st, 2009, so I brought Ganesh picture, and I put beside of the Jesus. And then I explained, the people are asking, who is that? I said, look, I believe in God. I believe in God, and you call Jesus, I call Bhagavan. Somebody call Allah, somebody call, So, and our destination is same. Somebody is going straight, some going other. So, I believe in God. This is the main thing. So, I believe in all religions. So, and this is good luck for my business. He also good luck for my business. So, I put both together, both friends. Then, and they said, yes. They said, okay, great. Then, I was trying to be more involved in the community because, yes, I will. So I was more involved in the community than what I did before Christmas and December 2009. What I did, because community was giving me so much, what I did, I give a Christmas party for whole town. And I opened my restaurant, I put a buffet for everybody. They were like so much, appreciated with this. And after that, the town people used to cut my grass, my house grass. Is anything broken in my restaurant, my plumbing, anything? It's free, fixed. So you don't need to worry. My electrical problem, Jack, I got problem. Come is middle of the night. It's coming and fixing stuffs. So the most amazing thing the town of Osler they did when my wife arrived in Canada in 2010, whole town gave reception. They closed the town office. There was mayor. There was around more than 220 people, and they said that they didn't allow me to spend a single penny for this, occasion. Like they said, this is a small thank you from us to you because you are. What I used to do like some people I know they are living in a retirement. I never ever charge them for a coffee. This is I try to understand like how you get into the community. So this is the all immigrant. I'm just telling you, please, wherever you are, don't try to teach our culture. Adapt the culture, whatever they're running. Then then you can show what you have. This is bonus, So then the people, appreciate you big time. Then I got that appreciated by that small community. Then Waltham, and then the next year I took another restaurant in Waltham. So it's called Waltham International Restaurant. My wife graduated from Waltham High School. And from ladies group from Waltham, they used to take my wife for their ladies' night. The teacher used to come to my restaurant to teach my wife and a principal gave me, hey, your wife, she need to finish her grade 12 by 1 year because otherwise she had to go to the adult school. So then, and whole town work hard for my wife. This is like kind of imagine, isn't it? Yeah. This is, so, I thanks to God that, this opportunity came to me and, these people surrounded me. It's so good. And, and now, I took different businesses. I went to the real estate and now, I started. So that's why if you want to start your business, just be positive and, and do whatever you are good at. Thank you. I guess I've run out of my time.
Kamanash, thank you. For some of us, Kamanash was introduced via the Premier. He stopped in Osler one day. He likes Mennonite food, former Premier. And that'll kind of make sense to most of us. He had food that he kind of reminded him of his grandma. He thought, I wonder who made such great food. Can I meet the cook, meet the chef? Kamanash came out. And the Premier told that story as a way of reminding all of us that some things stay the same and some things change. And, well, we've just been great friends ever since. Now we're going to hear from Sandra Ribeiro. Sandra has a fascinating story. She's born in Mozambique. She's from Portugal. She came here, studied, and I'll let her take it from there. But the key on this is, and just today, Global Affairs Canada came out with a brand new report. Over $15 billion a year contributed to the Canadian economy through international students. But as the minister said, for Saskatchewan and actually for all provinces, imagine what that looks like when we begin to think about not simply encouraging students to study here, but to stay and succeed here. And so one of the questions I had for Sandra when we were chatting was, so why did you stay? And this is Sandra's story.
I don't know if I can beat Kananash's story, but yes, my name is Sandra. I was indeed born in Mozambique, which at the time was a Portuguese colony. I was, I think, 4th generation born there. I grew up in Portugal, where my family moved. Mozambique went through colonial war and then a civil war, which is, one of those proxy wars during the Cold War that was kind of funded by, Russia and the U.S. and South Africa, which wanted to. It was Mozambique borders Southeast Africa, it borders South Africa and Southeast Africa, and so. South Africa was at the time very interested in keeping its neighbors destabilized so that they wouldn't, protest apartheid or try to influence that. My family left for Portugal, grew up there, and then when I was in high school, we were actually a 2-for-1. So my parents were divorced, I was an only child, and my mother wanted to do her PhD in Canada, and I was in grade 11 at the time, and we applied to immigrate here. And we ended up here. There was a great program at the University of Saskatchewan for my mother to do her PhD. She was actually the first PhD graduate in nutrition. I don't know if you even knew that, Rob. And I did my undergrad here, and the rest is history. There, my story. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what else I can say. Rob wanted me to focus on lessons learned. The two big lessons, or the two sort of most difficult things for me, there were lots of positives, right? I mean, why did I stay? I stayed because I fell in love with Saskatoon. I had grown up speaking English and Portuguese because part of my mother's family was South African, and I'd always sort of looked up to North American culture and thought I would really adapt well there. First year of university was extremely difficult, and I remember thinking throughout, I think about that all the time, actually. I arrived, and I was, somewhat familiar with the culture. The culture wasn't that extremely alien to me, and I spoke English fluently. And my first year, I started with a full load of classes and ended up dropping to one class because I went into a massive depression. So mental health support, and I don't know what the resources are like nowadays. Adaptation was very, very hard, and I had certain advantages. I was not a refugee. My family was fairly well off, and again, I spoke English fluently, and adaptation was very hard. And I often think about what it's like for people who don't have those advantages. Fortunately, the university student services at the university played an integral part in getting me back up to. Getting past the depression. And I ended up graduating, finishing my BA in 4 years, a 4-year BA in 4 years, because I took summer classes and everything like that. My mother finished her PhD, and she went back to Portugal, and I ended up staying. I feel very fortunate. Subsequently, after getting my bachelor's, I went back to Europe. I lived in Brussels and did internships in Brussels, and then in Lisbon, and then in Paris, and then decided to move back here. I remember, living and working in Paris for about 9 months, and then saying I was going back to Canada, and all the, it's always, grass is always greener. All the Parisians are like, oh, I'm so jealous. I wish I could, move to Canada. The other big lesson I have, I guess I learned, one was that, it's crucial to have mental health support for immigrants and refugees, and I don't know that we have enough. I don't think we ever have enough, really. I mean, no constituency ever has enough mental health support. But the other one was bureaucracy. So after living here for over 20 years now, my mother subsequently, she finished her PhD, she went back to Portugal, and then 10 years later, because I stayed here, she moved back. I sponsored her through the, so I have several immigrant stories, narratives. I actually sponsored her through the SINP program. And I remember, I think she would have then been like at sort of the top of sort of the age allowance, but that was a great program, and I was very happy to get her here. And she's now she's in management at the health region, so she's obviously contributing as best she can. So the other lesson was bureaucracy in terms of. And the other thing that resonated with me, so I sponsored. My mom went through the immigration process twice. She was a landed immigrant twice, and then a few years later, I sponsored my father. I'm an only child. My father lives in Portugal, and I thought, we do have extended family there, and but I thought, if something happens to him, how do I have to go over there and deal with it, or how do I sponsor him so that he can come? If something happens, I can get him here fast and close if there's a medical emergency or something. So I sponsored him. It was a long and arduous, like everyone here I'm sure knows, process, but it was also incredibly difficult to navigate the bureaucracy. And again, in my job, I'm very good at navigating bureaucracies. I'm very good at figuring out how to get things done, just by nature and through the work that I do, and dealing with different people. And again, language wasn't an issue. So I don't have an answer. Just that was another lesson I learned. I found that the processes in place are often they have to be very difficult for people who don't master either, the culture or the language or just organizational processes to navigate. But ultimately, I think, again, like a lot of immigrants, I feel Canadian and I feel Portuguese and I feel, not Canadian and not Portuguese. One always feels, at home here and then at home in Portugal when I visit my family, and not at home here and not at home in Portugal. It's kind of the scourge of the immigrant, I think, that you always feel a little bit like an other everywhere you go. I blend in well, obviously, but there's always but I love Canada. I'm extremely proud to be Canadian. I'm so glad I moved here, and I can't imagine really my life anywhere else or any other way. And that's it, I think. Thank you.
Sandra, thank you. Sandra is characteristically modest. She runs the communications outfit at the Canadian Lightsource Synchrotron. And when she says she's used to working with bureaucracies, it's not simply Canadian bureaucracies, but she interacts with others around the world on a continual basis. And so thanks for sharing that story. I liked your kind of multi-tier approach, how many kinds and different types of engagements you've had with immigration processes. Before I turn it over to Dr. Asit Sarkar, who's going to bring some of this together, the regret that we have, and especially from George LaFond, our former treaty commissioner, was going to join us this afternoon, and he couldn't be in Saskatchewan. He's doing some work outside the province, and he just couldn't get back this afternoon. And so, regarding the if you want, the dynamic and really interesting story about continuing Indigenous and immigrant dynamic, it can probably be its own conference, actually. I mean, I think we've got work to do. So George extended his regrets on that. But I would like to turn it over maybe for a bit of synthesis as well as some new insights to Dr. Sarkar, who, as Kamanishus says, we all kind of got to know through a variety of ways and means, but who has played and truly played a remarkable role in Saskatchewan's contemporary immigration story. So Asit, over to you.
Thank you very much. I know it has been a long day, and so I will focus on maybe 2 or 3 things. Given that we have heard from the settlement agencies, we have heard from the Refugee Coalition Support Alliances, what I would like you to do is to walk with me for the next few minutes to think outside the box. You might say, why think outside the box? Because a lot of you have raised issues that labor market is tight, so jobs are not there very much, and yet you as settlement agencies, you continue to train people for the labor market. But that labor market is changing. You just heard the other day Premier saying that he's going to reduce the number of people in the public service through attrition, which means what? Some of the jobs which are currently in the public service are no longer going to be there when the current incumbents leave. So you got new people coming over here. You are training them for workplace. That workplace is no longer there. What are you going to do? So I would suggest, therefore, we have to think about new ways of responding to this. Why some of the comments by Grant Cook, Kamanashish, and some of the others informally are important. I think all of you realize that the workplace as we know today is not going to look like workplace 10 years from now. So, are you going to train new immigrants for yesterday's workplace or tomorrow's workplace? So think about that as you design your own training programs and other things. Which means engaging with the business and industry sector is going to be an essential part of your whole training program. It is no longer going to be whether the ICRC gives you a block of money to do the same thing as before. The governments are slow to change. So you are not going to be able to change the government and then adopt to their programs. Let me tell you, I have been in Saskatoon from 1970. During my time over here, I was able to interact with whole group of business and industry community in Saskatchewan, from Larange to Estevan, from Moosomin to Medicine Hat, up to the border there. Because I was working with my students who were leaving Saskatchewan in droves after their graduation, because there was no job here. And in the process, I found out that when we had problems, Saskatchewan people developed their own solutions. Today's farm implement industry that you see throughout this province is all homegrown. They are not part of Massey Ferguson or International Harvester. They're all responding to problems uniquely of Saskatchewan. So you can say as many times as you want, there is not enough credentials recognition. But ask yourself, knowing that problem, how can you step up and find innovative solutions? Let me use just Saskatoon. Saskatoon is the center of at least two major, or three, if I include SIIT, three major institutions in a variety of fields. You need to identify where are the training gaps, where the people who want to practice their professions and trades in Canada are not getting that opportunity. University of Saskatchewan is not going to initiate on their own a new architect qualification program, new pharmacist qualification program. But you have every right to demand of a public university by saying that there is demand for it. We are bringing resources from those who learn. We would leverage resources from the federal government, which are giving us money for training. We will leverage resources from investors such as Grant Cook, and Sandra didn't say it, but she's a member of the board of directors of Saskatoon and District Chamber of Commerce. That's where your stakeholders are. You can engage them. They're not going to come just to say that, well, can we design program like this. You have faced, and there are all kinds of models where 4 major settlement agencies in Saskatoon cannot collaborate with SIIT, with Sask Poly and University of Saskatchewan to develop a bridging program for a number of the areas in which you got new immigrants that you want to get settled here. You can find a model. Ask me. I'll work with you. You can find funds. There was a time when Saskatchewan did not have enough teachers of Indian and Métis background for schools. College of Education here developed the first such program, Indian Teacher Education Program, Saskatchewan Urban Native Teacher Education Program in all of Canada. Today it has been formalized into the whole College of Education's teacher education programs. So my point is, if all the things that you identified are right, and I believe they're right, which means demand is there, but you have to speak up. And that is no different from Morris Farm Implement Company, whereby they found that Saskatchewan soil had too much rock, that machineries were getting damaged all the time during the cultivation. So developed what they call their original program, rod weeder, which essentially were picking up the rocks. So this is no different than that. We all know that for our new immigrants, getting that first job is a problem because we don't have Canadian experience. Is Canadian experience in bridge building any different from bridge building somewhere else? Let not people continue to tell you that difference in accent is equivalent to lack of English language. If you don't speak up about this through the settlement agencies to the appropriate bodies, you are not going to go ahead. So make a demand of the Saskatoon District and Chamber of Commerce. Can you help us in establishing a mentorship program similar to what Raj Manek mentorship program now exists for the mainstream business community, but this one is targeted to the new immigrants who need their first exposure to the Canadian labor market. I am pretty sure there are sufficient members of the business community who will step up. But if you don't ask for it, you wouldn't get it. Melanie Berg, in her presentation, gave a wonderful example. Collaboration. She went through saying, we had problems in physicians not registering. But she also gave you the solution. She found the Refugee Health Collaborative. And it is the word collaborative. And she mentioned community clinic. I can't get to a family physician because they're not taking new patients, but I can go to community clinic. How many of us are aware that community clinic is an alternate model of healthcare delivery? Grant Cook also mentioned about involvement of the credit unions in Saskatchewan. we need to engage them because some of the new immigrants who want to start their own business need some financing support. Can all the settlement agencies together not build a bridge, not build a collaborative with our homegrown financing institutions like the credit unions? I'm sure it can be done. But you got to think outside the box. Sandra referred to the other one which we have not had a chance to discuss. Governments talk a great deal, and even the minister last night talked about the international students as future immigration potential. Universities like my own university here and other institutions very eager to spend money on recruiting international students because in an era of changing demographics, it helps us to fill the empty seats with bums. Ask yourself how much the university does in making sure that during the period of study or the following the study, these international students will have some Canadian workplace experience so that when the express entry requires that as a part of their acceptance, they will have it. Instead, international students graduate at the same time with anybody else's, which is the time when there is extreme pressures on the labor market to accommodate the new graduates. If you are an employer, you got, 20 resumes to deal with. You got 15 of them who have got experience, whether a dishwasher like Kamanashish or a server in the restaurant or whatever. The international students did not have any. Whom would you pick? Universities talk about, or you talk about, establishing credentials equivalency. Why shouldn't universities take a role in that for Saskatchewan? We are talking about adapting our provincial nominee program to Saskatchewan's need. What I'm saying, as Rob asked the question, what would success in Saskatchewan look like? Let us think of Saskatchewan's context. In addition to the business and industry groups as the stakeholders, I would strongly add another group. Every settlement program, integration program, must have concrete engagement, ongoing engagement with the First Nations communities. And it doesn't have to be on a piecemeal basis. You can formalize it through Saskatoon Tribal Council. You can formalize it through Dakota Whitecap, Community Development Corporation. Once you interact like that, even though, as I agree with Joe Garcia, that no immigrant, no indigenous person said that shut the door on new immigrants. But there needs to be mutual respect. So in a settlement program, integration program, for success in Saskatchewan, it doesn't have to be same in Toronto. But in Saskatchewan, respect for the treaty, respect for the heritage of the First Nations has to be an integral part of it. Finally, refugees. Again, we have concerned a lot about initial settlement and adaptation. But Minister alluded last night, once that is done, contribution of the refugees to the economy is nothing less. So therefore, any refugee settlement and integration program must also include the same kind of engagement as you do for economic and family class. Thank you.
Remember what I said about those Saturday morning sessions. He offers us great challenges. You know, when the first premier of Saskatchewan met the first president of the University of Saskatchewan, met him at the train station. There was no university. And he kind of asked a simple question of the first premier, that is Walter Murray, the incoming president. It was easy. Why should I stay? It's kind of a perennial question. The answer was kind of like this, because it's a big land for big people with big ideas. And Decet's point is, if we're not quite there yet, and we're not, then let's think about ways to build the next Saskatchewan, our Saskatchewan. You know, in Canada, there wasn't healthcare once. When my grandmother, she's in her 90s, when she was little. So when she got sick, doctor came, said, I hope she gets better. There wasn't money. Saskatchewan led the way for Canada on public health care. We're having challenges on health care, and we've got ideas about ways to get better. It's not ordained by God. It's actually just a public policy that's rooted in an ethos of empathy and understanding. But it's a creation. It's not perfect. But it can be reinvigorated and refocused. The more we can work together, it's one of the things we talked about. And Dan, then I'm going to turn it over to you for the last word. But why were our corporate partners important? Why is it important to hear Deb's story and have Grant and Sandra in the mix? Because we need to get a more holistic understanding of the endeavor. Because, by the way, the more voices around a table, at least in my experience, the more influence and persuasion you have regarding public policy. And if you come with a unified voice, very clear concepts of what the problems are and what potential solutions can be, there aren't many people that will turn you away. Not in the media, not in public office. They might not be able to help you right away. But you get fair hearing because it's clear, concise, and it originates out of community and shared experiences. Maybe that's the point to turn the mic back to Dan and to say thank you so much for now almost literally 24 hours of work, hard work, and Dan, to you for some final words. But I hope that we can work on something, maybe a bit of an op-ed piece or a public policy paper or something, so that we can give Saskatchewan's voice, maybe through the CIC or CIC, the end of a long day. Maybe we can give some Saskatchewan voice so that out here in the hinterland, that report still kind of digs at me, actually. But out here, we're actually not just building for Saskatchewan's immigration program. I think there's an opportunity for us to actually help further shape Canada's immigration program and approach. Dan, over to you.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you very much for this. I don't want you to have to look behind me. So, thank you for your time. And we have so many people to thank. I won't speak them all. They are all on the back of the program. Please take some time to take a read through them. We still have some extra programs at the back. It's been great meeting so many of you for the first time. And I hope you have had similar experiences with other people here in the room. We've talked a lot about some of the challenges that we're facing when we're talking about immigration and refugees here in the province of Saskatchewan, in a city like Saskatoon, or a city close to being like Saskatoon. We have so much intellectual power in this room right now that we can come up with further ideas on how to make the resettlement experience easier and to help through that process make the Saskatchewan economy stronger. It is a situation of a rising tide lifts all boats. You'll be receiving at least one more bulk email from me regarding this conference that we've been having. All of the sessions have been videotaped. Thanks to Al in the back. Thank you, Al. In a short time, and once we pay our bill with Al, we will have all 4 sessions today, plus the keynote with Charlie Clark, plus last night's session with the minister. They'll be available on YouTube. So I will make sure that through that next email that you all have a link to that. You're all going to want to rewatch part of it, maybe all of it. You're all going to want to share it with others that you were hoping would be able to make it to this, but wouldn't be able to. One of the questions is, when are we doing this next? We could look at that as a possibility. I think we should rest and we should build up our energies again. But we all need to be talking amongst ourselves about what kinds of things we need to do next. I think Rob is completely right. We have to write up some of our insights of what we've felt about different aspects of the conference, and we have to publish them. We have to get them out. We can do that through the CIC website, but you also have other links through your different social media that we can also do this. We can continue to do this. CIC has always served as an aggregator, has always served as a linker. We're willing to do what we can to help further the conversation. You all have expertise in this area far more than I do, so you may have to do some of the heavy lifting, but I would like for us to consider, let's keep talking about this. Let's keep linking. Thanks to you. Thanks to all of you. I think I'm done. Have a great weekend, everyone.